Hello everyone from wherever you are watching us. This is welcoming you to another session where we analyze as well as explain the intricacies of agricultural biotechnology in such a way that farmers, stakeholders, and indeed the governments at different levels will understand the relevance of this technology in the context of a growing population without any functional birth control measures. On this episode, we shall evaluate the role of agric biotechnology in crop yield and productivity. As a matter of fact, it's important to note the four most important factors that influence crop yield, namely soil fertility, availability of water, climate, diseases, and pests. Now, how prevalent are these factors in Nigeria? There's no doubt that Nigerian farmers have their own experiences of lower acreage yields of certain crops, and we shall learn more on that as we start off another program on this channel. I am Kirian Umayo, glad to have you with me on the show today, and our guest is the regional representative of African Agricultural Technology Foundation, AATF, Dr. John Tinegere. Welcome to AGRICBIOTECH and Food Security, one-stop shop for better understanding of agric biotechnology. Thanks for joining us. This is introducing a new TV series on agricultural biotechnology, one of the most complex and accurate scientific discoveries designed to provide sustainable food security for humanity. In the light of rapid population growth, AGRICBIOTECH must be understood, accepted, and embraced to realize its full potentialities. Nigerian agriculture is vulnerable to climate change with associated occurrences, reducing agricultural production across the nation. But biotech offers new tools for increasing agricultural productivity and protection of food crops. And from farmers, testimonies abound on the benefits of genetically modified crops. In this TV series, we shall be dissecting issues surrounding agric biotech with experts on its understanding, acceptability, and application, week in, week out. Join me, Kirian Umayo, on our show, Agric Biotech and Food Security. Be my guest, Tuesdays, 7:30 p.m. on NT International. Brought to you by OFAB Nigeria under the auspices of NAFDA. Joining me now for the conversation segment of the program is Dr. Johnbaptiste Tinegere. Dr. Tinegere is the regional representative, African Agricultural Technology Foundation, AATF. Dr. Tinegere, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Biotechnology has been a hard sell, not just in Nigeria, but in many African countries. Yeah. But Nigeria, for instance, has taken a step towards ensuring the commercialization of some BT crops. So there are very few, but that's a starting point. Now, in terms of yield that people merely talk about, giving credits to biotechnology, we are talking about going hunger-free between now and the year 2030. How will these high-yield crops we're talking about, how will they manifest? Because the gestation period for the scientific process that gives birth to some of the crops that we are talking about, we're celebrating, takes long period. Now, how do we ramp up, whatever we're doing biotechnologically to enhance food yield and, of course, productivity in Africa?
Okay, thank you very much. Let's say that with the increasing population in Africa, increasing yield is the best solution to achieving food security in Africa. As you might know, with the increasing population of Africa, there is a high pressure of humans, but also livestock on land. We cannot continue increasing land for the sake of increasing production. As you might know, with the increasing population of Africa, increasing yield and productivity is the best way to achieve food security in Africa. As you might know, with increasing population, there is a high pressure on this population, but also livestock on land. We cannot indefinitely continue increasing land because it's not available. So the best way is to increase the productivity within a limited land area. How can we increase yield? Let's say that crop yield is the result of the genetic potential, the growing environment, and the interaction between the genotype and the environment. Regarding the environment, agronomists, weather experts, irrigation experts have been working to propose good agronomic practices, to propose good irrigation practices, to propose weather and water management technologies to increase yield. And a certain number of technology was proposed to farmers, recommended to farmers that they are practicing in their field. Now, the issue comes with the genetic potential. Breeders in Africa, in the world, have been working to increase the genetic potential of crop so that we can have more food, more quality food in terms of nutrient content. But the issue with the conventional breeding is that there are some limitations. For instance, breeding for a certain number of varieties has reached a level where there is no solution. I will take the case of, for instance, insects. And that's where biotechnology was very useful. Biotechnology, seen as a science that uses biological processes to produce technologies that are applicable in agriculture, industry, and also environment management, is an alternative to some bottlenecks we face with conventional breeding. And for instance, as you might know, in Nigeria, for instance, and also in the sub-region, West Africa, cowpea is one of the key crop, affordable crop that most Africans are consuming. It's an affordable source of protein for infant, for breastfeeding women, and for many people, mostly in Nigeria. So this crop is facing attacks by insects. For some of the insects, the alternatives was to use pesticides to protect the crops. In the case of cowpea, it requires, for instance, up to eight and sometimes more than 8 times spray with insecticide to control some insects, mostly Maruca vitrata, known as pod borer in cowpea. This pod borer can cause complete yield loss in cowpea if nothing is done to protect the crop. And the conventional breeding has been ineffective to propose solution against this Maruca, this pod borer. It's only by the use of biotechnology that breeders were able to propose to develop technology that was able to control these pod borer in cowpea. IER, ATF, and other partners play a key role in developing technology, and this crop technology is a variety of cowpea that control itself this pest. And from required 8 or 10 times spray to control insects, now you just need only 2 spray at appropriate stage, development stage of cowpea to control these pod borer.
Okay, you've just given an example of a cowpea, which is widely consumed in Africa. Now, there are other crops. In Nigeria, for instance, we have some staple food items, rice, for instance. But I was told that we are yet to come up with a BT rice that can be, commercialized. And other crops like a potato is still being worked upon. Now, we're talking about food productivity, to enhance food productivity. And we have identified biotechnology as a technology that can change the course of history of agricultural practice in Nigeria. Now we're on cowpea. When are we expecting really to begin to have widely cultivated BT crops across Africa and Nigeria in particular, to see how we can ramp up food production?
Let's get back to the example of BT cowpea. As you know, BT cowpea, called PBR, pod borer resistant cowpea, this variety was accepted for commercialization in Nigeria for the first time. But this product was also accepted in Ghana recently, and Burkina Faso is preparing, hopefully by 2024, to commercialize BT cowpea. As you know, the technology is spilling over West Africa and maybe later on all over all Africa. So the technology is really in progress. But now there are other technologies other than cowpea. I will give you the example of maize. There is a new variety developed by scientists, and this technology is also under assessment, currently under assessment in the Nigeria and other countries in Africa, South Africa and other countries. And this maize variety called Tela maize was developed through biotechnology. And as you might know, this new variety enabled the increase of yield from 4 ton to 7 ton, almost 50% increase. 50% increase is really significant, and it will impact undoubtedly yield and production and also food safety in Africa, since you know that maize is one of the major cereal consumed in Africa by many and various. Yeah, exactly. So this variety has the characteristic, the property to control fall armyworm, the famous fall armyworm against which there is almost it's difficult to control because it's endemic almost in West Africa. But also this variety controls maize stem borer, and in addition to that, it is a drought-tolerant variety.
Let's pause for a break now. We shall be back in a moment. I'm now being joined by Malam Ado Sule. Malam Sule is an economist and Director Administration, National Cotton Association of Nigeria. Malam Ado Sule, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We are concerned in this segment about how Nigeria can begin to have higher yields. We understand that many farmers are having issues with losses on a yearly basis, based on the fact that it's either the disease or pests, countered their, farm, and of course, as usual, destroyed part of the yield. And we'd like to know, what do you think biotech can do to change the narrative?
Well, let me start by giving you a little background on how we came into biotech, how we started. The cotton industry has been on the ground for some time because it was neglected. So we thank God that the government of General Muhammadu Buhari decided to look into that sector, and we were added into the Anchor Borers program in 2019. And I recall that when that program started, one of the biggest issues we had was actually seeds. It's not only having even the seeds that is the issue, but even the farmers having to convince them to be able to use good seeds. Because I remember that in 2019, we had a good variety of seeds coming in from Cameroon, but the farmers from the northwest actually rejected these seeds. Use of this seeds. They are going to use what they are used to. They don't want any new seeds in. But what made the magic is that in that year, the people that accepted those seeds had a higher yield than the farmers that didn't want to use it. So that was when the awareness started coming up, and the gradual acceptability of using those seeds came in. Then in 2020, we worked with NABDA in collaboration with one company that does what they call Mayeko seeds. These are BT seeds, and these seeds were experimented by NABDA in conjunction with IAR, Zaria, and they found it to be very good for our soil. And for that reason, we now applied it to our farmers. 2020 was not, we didn't get much of it. We just did some little farms here and there, which we saw the yield was quite high. Because I remember in 2019, we could hardly get 1.5 tons per hectare when we farm. In fact, most of the times it stops at kg, maybe 900 kg, 1 kg, 1.5, if the farmer applies all that is needed. But when we applied these Beko seeds in the experimental stage, we discovered that we were able to get up to 3 to 4 tons per hectare. You can imagine the disparity. The difference was huge. So based on this, we now decided that in 2021, we did some large-scale farming. Like for example, in Wase, we did about 6,000 hectares of land, farmland, one of the largest farms in one place that we had. We were cotton farm in West Africa at that time. And it was a big success because we saw the yield, mostly supervised and in conjunction with the Mayeko company that came in from India, and we worked with them. We did the farming, and it came out beautiful.
Oh, okay. Now, how is it with cotton farmers now in Nigeria? Have they fully accepted biotech seeds for cotton, or are they still having misconceptions about the technology?
No, not at all. With these 3 years of experimental stages that I've just explained to you, farmers are now even eager to get the seeds. They actually want it. Like I remember, we gave some of those seeds to farmers in Guyuk, Adamawa, and the yield was fantastic. And when I went to the village, I could physically see the change in the farmers' lives. You know, this is a village that you can hardly see a house built with blocks. But I went almost all the houses, and I saw an average of every house had the foundation of block houses. So the farmers were overwhelmed. They were waiting for us to come and take the cotton.
Now, what about availability of the seeds you were talking about?
Now that's the issue. Now, and that's why we need to collaborate with all the relevant agencies to ensure we get the seeds available at the affordable price. Because as it is now, the seeds are quite expensive for an average farmer. Even though for the fact that we provided those seeds for the farmers, most of them couldn't have actually afforded to buy those seeds. Now we have made proposals, and we're talking with the relevant agencies so that these seeds can be produced locally, because that's the only way you can make it cheaper. Because it's different from importing. When you import it, when you look at all the import charges and all that, and the fact that the company has to make profit.
Now you're talking about availability and affordability. Now, what efforts are being made, to domesticate the technology?
Yes, actually, Mexico has carried out some pilot farms in some parts of southwest and northwest to see how they can start growing these seeds locally. And NAFDA is also doing their best, doing a lot of pilot farms to see that this can be grown. But you see, there need to be funding.
Now, are you saying that most of the seeds you planted in the years you mentioned, 2019, 2020, were all imported?
Yes.
Now, the ones that are being tested in the country at the moment, at what stage is the experiment?
Well, the experiment is successful, but the fact is that it needs to be commercialized. That is where the problem is. Now, commercialization means that funds have to actually be injected into these pilot farms, and the necessary agencies have to research agencies have to be funded properly to be able to do a bigger pilot farms, commercial farms that you can actually produce the seeds massively. If not, we will not go anywhere. So we actually need government to actually bring in, see how they can support the funding of this.
On a final note, you have already gotten experience with the ones you planted some years ago. Now, can't you, from the yield, also have seeds that you could plant the next year or the next planting season?
The problem with BT seeds is that the recycling process is not as good as that of conventional seeds. It's a seed that once you plant once, it's difficult to replant. The challenges are there. So you need to keep producing these seeds every year you're planting and getting fresh ones if you want maximum yield. Because if you say you want to reproduce, and these companies that are coming in from abroad, they will not even want to give you a seed that you can now use and replant, because they will need you to buy from them again. So see, that's why it's good for us to localize the production so that we can find a way of actually injecting some kind of genes that will make the seeds replantable, so that we can produce it in mass.
Now, on a final note, what is the reaction of your members of National Cotton Association of Nigeria? How are they faring, with respect to the level we are now with the BT cotton?
Well, the BT cotton has been able to empower a lot of farmers, because some of them could not believe the kind of yield they got. And the beautiful thing is that in 2020, we got a very beautiful price for harvested cotton, seed cotton. The price went up to about 500,000 per ton. And you can imagine if a farmer does a hectare and gets up to 4 tons. So you can see in 1 hectare alone, it's making about 2 million. So it excites them. But there should be a drive to ensure that they can get these seeds in an affordable price.
All right, there should be a drive so that the cotton farmers can have access to the BT cotton which they require for bumper harvest. We're talking about availability and affordability. I have been speaking with the Director, Administration, National Cotton Association of Nigeria, and the person of Malam Ado Sile, an economist and also a farmer. Thank you very much, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
This is introducing a new TV series on agricultural biotechnology, one of the most complex and accurate scientific discoveries designed to provide sustainable food security for humanity. In the light of rapid population growth, AGRICBIOTECH must be understood, accepted, and embraced to realize its full potentialities. Nigerian agriculture is vulnerable to climate change with associated occurrences, reducing agricultural production across the nation. But biotech offers new tools for increasing agricultural productivity and protection of food crops. And from farmers, testimonies abound on the benefits of genetically modified crops. In this TV series, we shall be dissecting issues surrounding AGRICBIOTECH with experts on its understanding, acceptability, and application, week in, week out. Join me, Kirian Umayo, on our show, AGRICBIOTECH and Food Security. Be my guest, Tuesdays, 7:30 p.m. on NT International. Brought to you by OFAB Nigeria under the auspices of NAFDA.
To experience a bumper harvest is a function of farming process. For instance, deficiency in soil nutrients can reduce yields. The quality of seeds and seedlings also can reduce yields. As we have heard, agric biotechnology has helped increase crop productivity across the globe. And by introducing such technology, we begin to experience, disease resistance, pest resistance by biotechnology engineered crops in Nigeria. That's our show for today. We thank you for watching. I'll see you again next week. I am Kirian Umayo, yours in science.